The grand chandeliers of the Imperial Hotel sparkled like captured stars, spilling golden light over polished marble floors and velvet-covered dining halls. Guests dressed in neat tuxedos and dazzling gowns laughed over their champagne glasses, their voices blending smoothly with the soft sound of a string quartet. But behind this dazzling world of wealth and power, a storm was waiting to strike, one that would crush pride, uncover secrets, and leave every soul in shocked silence. On that very day, the spoiled son of a rich man would lift his hand against a woman whose heart carried more strength than he could ever imagine. What he did not realize was that her husband's name would make him shake in fear in a way riches and rank never could. My friends, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that show the real power of the human spirit, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to our channel. Your support allows us to bring these true emotional stories to life. Her name was Clara. She was young, gentle, and clearly expecting a child. Her apron was tied carefully around her growing belly as she moved silently through the banquet hall. With rubber gloves tucked into her waistband and a tired smile, Clara worked long hours, cleaning, serving, and making sure the wealthy guests never noticed the exhaustion written on her face. Every step she took was for the child inside her and for the dream of giving her baby a life without hunger or shame. Even though life had never shown her mercy, Clara stood tall, her dignity untouched by hardship. At the far end of the hall sat Adrienne, the only son of the hotel's rich owner. Born into luxury and raised in comfort, Adrienne had never done an honest day of work, never known struggle, never learned humility. He wore arrogance like a designer suit, and entitlement filled him as easily as air. The staff feared him, not because he was strong, but because he was cruel. To Adrienne, they were invisible, people without names or stories, existing only to serve his moods. That afternoon, his laughter echoed above all others as he bragged about his influence, drinking wine with careless pride. Fate, however, led Clara into his path. Carrying a tray of crystal glasses, she rushed past his chair. A sudden misstep made a single drop of wine land near his cuff. It was barely noticeable, yet Adrienne's eyes narrowed as if she had insulted his very being. In the silence that followed, he stood up, rage twisting his face. Gasps filled the room as Adrienne, blinded by pride, lashed out with his foot, striking Clara in her stomach. The fragile tray smashed against the marble floor as she collapsed, her hands instantly wrapping around her unborn child. The entire hall froze. The wealthy guests, usually quick to laugh at Adrienne's behavior, now stared in horror. Whispers spread like fire. "She's pregnant. How could he?" Clara's face turned pale, her breathing faint, but she held back her tears. Instead, she pushed herself upright, trembling but unbroken, her eyes glowing with fear and silent defiance. Adrienne sneered, brushing his sleeve as if her very presence bothered him. "People like you should know your place," his voice rang out, sharp and cruel. But then, in the middle of that stunned silence, heavy footsteps echoed through the grand hall. Every head turned as a man entered, his presence so powerful that even the chandeliers seemed to dim. His name was Marcus Hale, a decorated soldier recently returned after years of duty overseas. He was Clara's husband, the man who had fought battles most could never imagine, a man whose loyalty and honor stood in sharp contrast to Adrienne's shallow pride. Marcus's eyes landed on Clara, trembling and holding her stomach, and something deep within him broke. The uniform of war was gone, replaced by a plain shirt and worn boots. Yet his very presence carried the weight of every battlefield he had endured. Slowly, he moved toward Adrienne, whose arrogance began to fade. The loud laughter that had filled the hall was gone, replaced by a silence so heavy it seemed to smother the air. Without a word, Marcus positioned himself between Adrienne and Clara. He didn't lift his fist, didn't yell, and didn't demand an apology. Instead, he fixed his gaze on Adrienne with a pain and fury only a man who had almost lost everything could hold. That single look was enough to make Adrienne step back, his false pride collapsing under the weight of reality. For the very first time in his life, the millionaire's son felt small. The guests whispered Marcus's name, realizing who stood before them. His bravery was not unknown. His sacrifices had been praised in newspapers, his heroism honored by leaders. And now, the man Adrienne had treated as a nobody was revealed to be the husband of the woman he had just attacked. The truth stripped every bit of Adrienne's arrogance away. Clara, though shaken, placed her hand on Marcus's arm, steadying him. She whispered gently that she and the baby were safe, though her eyes glistened with tears. Marcus then turned to the hall, his voice calm but unshakable. He spoke of respect, of humanity, and of how no amount of money or power gave anyone the right to harm the weak. He reminded them that true strength was not found in wealth, but in kindness and in protecting those who could not protect themselves. His words rolled like thunder, cutting through the shallow glamour of the banquet and leaving guilt and reflection behind. Adrienne, pale and shaken, could not meet Marcus's gaze. The man who had strutted like a peacock only minutes earlier now stood ashamed before a hall full of witnesses who once cheered for him. For the first time, he faced not wealth or status, but the raw truth of his own weakness. In that silence, Clara's dignity shone brighter than the chandeliers, her courage outshining the gold and silk around her. From that day onward, whispers of the event spread across the city. The wealthy patrons of the hotel began questioning Adrienne's character, and even his powerful father could not protect him from disgrace. Clara, meanwhile, became a quiet symbol of endurance, a reminder that the strength of a humble heart could humble even the most arrogant. And Marcus, though he never sought fame, stood as a living example of what it meant to be a protector, not through violence, but through integrity. Sometimes the most powerful battles are not fought with weapons, but with truth. And sometimes the greatest victories are won not by defeating an enemy, but by opening the eyes of those blinded by arrogance. Adrienne's pride had led him to harm the innocent, but the truth of Clara's husband left him frozen, forever changed, by the moment he realized the weight of his actions. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to. Every click helps us spread stories of compassion, justice, and humanity in a world that needs them more than ever.